Here we are. Thank you so much. Back again, this time with Nancy Jean in Nancy Jean's Garden, and we love her.
Do you sleep, Allie? Do you ever sleep?
So yes, Nancy Jean and I work together when we can, and she's come on today to talk about her resilience in the time of fascism and plague. And hopefully soon, whenever I get a spare moment, I was gifted a beautiful garden from Medium Kim for my birthday, and I haven't even been able to open it yet. So I'm dying to do that soon, and I want to work with Nancy Jean because I think it could be so much fun. So anyway.
If people haven't seen a garden, at the end, I've got it set up so we can kind of look at it, and it's got its own point of perspective. And we can look at it then. Yeah, you and I were just talking about our personal perspectives in the time of resilience, in the time of fascism and plague. And because I'm considerably older than Allie.
6 years, I think.
That's more than one of my brothers. That's more than my sister. Anyway, there's I was just telling Allie that I was reading some articles about ascension and people who understand ascension and why people have different mental aspects about what's going on now. And the deal is that when I was born in 1949, so I was born before there was television, because there had been television since the 1930s, but broadcasting it broadly, no. And I happened to have majored in broadcast film in college. So I studied about how television started going, and then it all stopped until 1952 because they had to get up the broadcast licenses. They had to come up with the FCC regs. They had to come up with how to deal with it, which is something of what we should have done with the internet. We should have stopped it and said, okay, this makes more sense, but we didn't. It grew like Topsy. But so when I was a child, I can remember when there wasn't television. I can remember when the best you got was radio. And I can remember when everything you wanted to do, you had to do with other people taking you by the hand and kind of leading you to where you go and what you learn. And I was what they call a precocious reader. My parents just found me behind the couch at the age between 3 and 4, reading my older siblings' grammar books from school.
Oh, wow, Nancy.
And they were like, they went to David. They said, did you teach your little sister to read? Well, first of all, I didn't get the time of day from him. He was 4 years older than me. You know, he was a generation away from me as far as he was concerned. And my older sister said, no, she just kind of sits there and watches us. She said she watches you when you read. Haven't you ever noticed that? And of course, there was no TV that could have been stimulating that or anything. So, so we learn differently. And it's actually 1950 when they say the planets started moving in alignment for the people who are going to be able to be the tech generation. Although I know there are many people in their 60s who say, oh, I wasn't. But yeah, you were. You know, yeah, you were. So to some extent, in having that kind of personal history, but then book learning history of how things really formed. I mean, a lot of people don't think about it. They don't, just the dates are meaningless to them. One of the things I wrote a long paper, because we had to write long papers in my department, even if you were doing movies and films and stuff. I wrote a paper on how television, how broadcasting the conventions changed the American political life. And I went back and looked at all films. I looked at how the papers had covered it and everything. Because now, mind you guys, this was long time ago. I was writing this stuff in the late 60s, early 70s. But a huge transition had happened in that space. And that was the beginning of the sort of rolling visual, have to be connected transitions that we go through all the time. But like some things old or new again, I used to work for PBS when I first got out of college. And I was working at a major station here in Dallas, which was one of the 5 flagship stations for PBS at the time. When Nixon went after PBS, and of course they were attacking things like Big Bird and all this.
Now they're doing it again.
I mean, that poor little critter. He never gets left alone. Um, and, so I watch these things and people are like, oh my God, all these things they're doing. And I've seen it before. And I remember as a younger person getting really freaked out by it.
Uh-huh.
And then learning that all I can control is myself
Mm-hmm.
and that I can try to help other people learn how to control themselves. So, um, and I was working in politics and I was up to the year that Hillary ran for president against the Trump. But by then I'd gotten my knees repaired and I was really working in the psychic world. And I'd look at campaigns and say, can you come help us? Because I ran Obama's field program in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd look at them and I'd go, do you really want the morning news to publish that one of your main thought people is a psychic in a vintage clothing store? Really? Let's try that again. So I help them all the time, but I don't help them publicly. I was no longer a face of the campaign. But what I did do at the vintage clothing store was on my reading table, I had voter registration forms.
Uh-huh.
And I
Mm-hmm.
would, because in Texas it is hard to get registered and a lot of people are confused by it. They make it as confusing as possible. So I would
Mm-hmm.
explain it to people. And we became known as a place where you could come get the forms to register. And so they
Good.
ended up just creating a table in the store. Instead of having merchandise, we had voter forms. And people were coming in the 2 months before the election. And then they'd say, if you want to know exactly what you need to do with your paperwork, go talk to Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
And what
Mm-hmm.
I did is I got everybody's phone number. And then I called them all and said, you
Mm-hmm.
registered at Dolly's. Now you have to take the other step. You
Mm-hmm.
have to vote. And I really badgered people to vote because somehow in my little peaky brain, I knew that was going to be huge. And when Trump won, when Trump was declared the winner, I do not think he won. And I'm not saying it like an Arizona kind of thing. I'm saying like real. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I was furious. The night he won, the night it was declared he was going to win, I was reading at the wine bar, which is the other place I hung out and read. I read cards there. I just didn't hang out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the staff kept coming up and saying, what's going to happen with the election? What's going to happen with the election? And I said, guys, I don't read politics because I know so much depth behind a question. I can't give you a clean, oh, well, it looks like it's going to go here. It's like, I could have told you they were going to let AOC and those progressives vote the way they did. Do you know what that's called? It's called catch and release. And what it is when you know you have enough votes, you can release people so they can keep their stand without you costing you your vote. That's what Pelosi was working on. They were making sure those Republicans were going nowhere.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, so they did a catch and release. But how can I explain that? I
Yeah.
mean, and say people kind of look at you like, how do you know? Well, because I've been in the rooms when those decisions are made. I've been with candidates when those decisions are made.
Right.
So that night I broke down for Kyle and Michael, and I laid out a big spread on the next 4 years. And in 20 minutes, I saw the entire 4 years.
Wow.
I got a complete download, and I was so shaken. The guys came, they said, do we need to drive you home? Are you okay? And I said, no, but I said, I can't read any more tonight. I'm leaving now. And I gathered my cards up. And I've never done this with a deck of cards before. I usually find someone who wants a deck,
Mm-hmm.
or we used to sell them at the vintage store, used tarot cards. I wouldn't buy them, but they'd buy them.
Mm-hmm.
But I threw 1/3 of that deck in the dumpster at the wine bar.
Mm.
I threw 1/3 of the deck in the trash at the garage, at the gas station where I put gas in my car. And I threw the last third in the big dumpster at my building because I knew that what had wound those cards together was so evil. I never wanted anybody else to see it. I went
Oh.
upstairs and I didn't get out of bed for 2 days. And finally, my daughter said, Mom, you have to wake up. You always taught us, win or lose, you have to lift your butt out of the bed and go see what you can do, the next good thing you can do. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, Casey, you don't know what I saw. And she said, well, talk to your guides and tell them to clear it up so that you can move forward because you can't lay here like this forever.
Right.
But your
Yeah.
knees won't work. I have 2 artificial knees. I have to use them every day or they won't work. And so I got out of bed.
Mm.
And then I knew I had this incredible sense of dread, but I couldn't see the images anymore. I mean, I saw everything. I saw kids in cages. because my husband had been removed from his family in England during the war and was isolated and lived with a family that abused him.
Oh,
And which is a common story in England at the time.
yeah.
You know, and so I saw like Bill's Kids in Cages and all the different things that it was going to come up. And I saw at the end this big black cloud that I couldn't see our way through. I said to my guides, "Is that a war?" And they said, "No, it's not a war." Well, that was COVID. So I would slowly turn it away. And then when they started the Muslim ban, I helped attorneys I knew organize people to go to places where they could take a stand and make a statement. And I trained volunteers to go to the airport and to the different places and to back up the people. And I knew that was going to happen, and I knew that was going to be very effective, and I knew the courts were going to hold. But this whole way, I've just been watching.
Yeah.
Those different things come up. So that's how I had the chaos in a 20-minute download.
Yeah. And that's what drove you to also start coming across on YouTube? Was that?
No, it happened. No, COVID.
Okay.
COVID brought me to YouTube.
COVID brought you here. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I helped one of the legislators that was very popular, that was in DC fighting against Texas when it was doing. She actually accidentally sat down at my table on a Tuesday night in the wine bar. And she didn't tell me who she was. I didn't know she was running for office or anything. And I laid her cards out and I said, "Your whole life is going to change this spring." And then all of a sudden I said, "Are you running for something? You're in a primary." And she said, "That's why I'm here tonight. I'm to decide if I want to run. I'm not sure. Got some people who really think," and she's really good. And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Then get out a piece of paper and I'm going to tell you the 10 things you need to do to win." And and she kind of looked at me like, "Okay, what kind of reader are you?" And I said, I ran Obama's field program." She said, "Okay." She got out her piece of paper. And I had told her she had to walk, because we have a lot of political consultants that don't think you need to go door to door. I'm like,
Right.
She only won by just about 600 votes when in the general election. And she said, if we had not started walking within a week of when I decided to run, we would not have had all the names we needed to get across the line. And then I said, then you do everything but carry their little butts to the polling place. But if there's one thing I want to say about the rise of Trump, I was so angry after he won, not at the people who even voted for him, because, I mean, you can't fix stupid. What I was mad at was the 52% of the registered voters in America that did not vote in that election.
Yeah.
And I've said that to people in the store. And there was a clerk who worked there, and she said, "Nancy, I don't want to hate you forever. You do hate me forever." But she said, at the end, I just kind of got tied up that day and I didn't get to the polling place, which is stupid. In Texas, we have 3 weeks of early voting.
Right.
You don't want to vote if you don't vote. So I looked at her and I said, "I won't hate you forever, but I hope you learned." And she said, "Well, how bad could it be?" Because he had just gotten in office, or had just been elected then. And the last time I saw her was in the middle of COVID. One of the few times I went out, I had my mask on. I had to go to the store to pick something up. Someone had left a check for me. And I went to pick it up. And she was on the other side of the counter and her face was masked. And I looked across the counter and I said, "This is the meanest thing I've said to anyone in a long time. How bad has it been?" And tears just started running down her cheeks. She said, "I had no idea." I said, every person who votes or doesn't vote, but we're all personally responsible for the community that we live in.
Yes, that's very, very
That's
true.
more politics than I've spoken in a long time.
In a long time. Yeah.
And what the plague did, the plague brought me to doing YouTube. The plague brought me to doing Zoom.
Right.
And then I'd started watching YouTube in 2018, but I made a grid for Sheila and a grid for Andrea for readings, just swap. And then they were like, "You need to get on YouTube and you need to show people this.
Yes.
And you need to tell people how this works." And Sheila always says, "You've forgotten more about tarot than I'll ever know." And I said, "No, it's not forget the truth. You'll live long enough, you'll remember a lot more."
Nancy Jean, you were maybe born before 1950, but you are part of this ascension, whether you believe that or not.
No, I believe I'm absolutely part of this ascension. I've been told that. Robert of the Akashic.
Robert Brunges, yeah.
He
Okay.
said, you were placed here. You were placed
You
here with
were.
the kind of knowledge you have. So you have
Absolutely.
compassion for people who do not understand.
So I have to tell you this, and others maybe too will be impressed by this. But for my husband's birthday in June, I asked Nancy Jean to create a grid for him because we wanted to buy the practice, and we were we wanted his goal to be achieved. And although the goal was not to buy the practice, because we weren't able to do that, we have what we want, which is yesterday we opened the brand new office, and that's where I am right now. And that grid has been absolutely fabulous. So I just want to thank you.
I'll give you some, the reason the grid worked is because you did.
Right.
I asked all the people, I've done about 150 grids now. And I sent out a mass email and I said, tell me what the grid's doing for you, because I'm getting some information together to try and explain it. And I got, oh my God, my it did this, it did this. All my goals were reached. I was finally able to get the nonprofit together I wanted. And then I had the woman, truly honest, she said, it hasn't done a damn thing. And then in her next line, but neither have I.
Oh,
So
well, yeah,
said,
you gotta work with a grid.
You can't sit there and put a grid in your living room and say, okay, it's like people when this question, because you read for people. When will the one show up?
Right.
And then you say, well, are you networking? Are you being in groups? Are you going
Right. I know I'm sitting at home on the couch waiting, Nancy.
Yeah. Well, unless they really are going to fall in love with the UPS man, I don't know.
Right. Touche. We got ours on the window and we're still working with it. So
you can repurpose the intentions.
Okay. Okay, I'll let them know.
Take it down and clear it off.
We'll bring in more business now. We're here.
And and now push it for growth, because I talked Sunday to a lady I hadn't spoken to since COVID had hit. And she had one of my first grids that was not fixed like yours is. Hers is freestanding. It's in an office here in Dallas. And I said, what do you want the grid for? And she said, I want to make $25 million so I can back fund my company. Wow. So I can make it grow, because I don't want to have to sell it. So I built the grid for her, and I'm saying, at this point I'm going, I can't make any promises, Yeah, I know. But she had a great company. She has a great concept. And so 3 weeks later, she wanders through Dolly's and she goes, oh, she said, how you doing? And we sat and talked. And I said, how's the grid working? And she said, oh, I guess okay. And she said, but the weirdest thing happened this last week. And an old college friend who's done very well in investment banking showed up, and they talked. Yeah. And he gave her a check for $2.5 million. And he was going to give another $2.5 million in 6 months. And he said, well, that helps stoke your capital campaign.
And that's just repositioning the numbers, because there's a 2 and a 5 in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I asked her, we had not talked since Sunday, and she called me because she has someone who wants to buy her company and she may want to sell it. So we talked about that. I've been watching this company with her for years. And she said, I said, how'd the capital campaign go? And she said, didn't get to the 25 million. I said, oh, really? She said, I got to 45.
Oh my God. But she doesn't know how the grid is doing.
No, she knows how the grid is doing. She said it's in her office, and she doesn't go into the office much now because everything's by telecommute. She said, if I move it, will you come with me and help move it to my house? And I said,
there you go.
Because hers is not stuck down like yours. So if she moves it around, things get knocked.
Okay. Well, a couple things that want to pop up. I knew that the appeals court did this, but now Valerie said the DOJ just charged Bannon, which is about time.
Yep.
And Andrea says she's so glad you're aligned spiritually and politically. And I agree with that, because the way you explain it, it becomes a mission more than it. You know what I mean? It's like your mission to, yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's your personal use of it. Politics is just a combined personal use of our energy. And trust me, the crazies scare me, because I've had them spit and scream at me going in and out of meetings and stuff. I mean, that's when I got out of politics, when it started shading that direction. But, guys, don't say, well, why didn't you stay? Because I'm 72 damned years old, and I can't outrun them,
I know.
But yes, he's been actually. There's an interesting book out right now. It's called Revelations by the River, and it's
Uh-huh.
by Matthew Dowd, who was a Republican, who then
Hmm.
withdrew from the Republican Party. Actually, right as Trump even tried to get in, he said, "I'm out of here," and he worked for
Hmm.
ABC News, and you can see him at MSNBC now and
I
again.
remember him. I
Yeah,
remember seeing that
he's
guy.
running for lieutenant governor of the state of Texas. Thank God. He
Okay.
lives down in Wimberley, but he wrote a book about living with his multitudinous spiritual understandings.
Oh,
And I got the book. It came out
okay.
this week. I got it on my Kindle. I've been
Okay.
reading it. I'm like, oh, I want to go hug this man because it's kind of how I feel about it. You don't have to sell your soul to work in this field.
Right.
You
But
just
most
have,
do.
you just
Yeah,
have to set boundaries
you
so that
do.
it doesn't suck you up.
That's right. That's absolutely right. It's like that other guy, Chris Krebs. He had a
Yes.
lot of integrity, real lot of integrity. And
Mhm.
I really, there's some people that I would even say Adam Kinzinger has a lot of integrity, even though I'm not a Republican fan, but there are just some people that, I don't know, I admire them and they're different. That difference doesn't matter because what mattered to me was what he was doing now. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's wonderful.
Valerie, you can go to my website, which is Crystal Directions with an S in it.com. You can see the grids. You can get an idea. I sell a couple of different sorts of spiritually tied together stones. You can also see the kind of readings I do there.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
I
that's
don't
my
know.
tip. Go to my website.
Absolutely. Yep. And she also, I believe, in the very first part of when you came on YouTube, you did a lot of stuff about your grids. You talked about some of
I
your
talk
shows.
about
Yeah.
stones. I talk about balance. I'm about
Right.
to start doing that again. But I'm really going to focus on the garden, which I
Mhm.
created that particular tool for
Right.
divination.
Right.
It incorporates the sacred geometry, the crystals. It incorporates almost everything
Almost everything.
I
Yeah.
know
That's
to
right.
move you
That's right.
forward. And
Yep.
it's a 4 and 5D tool. You
Yep.
can't do yes nos, and you're not going to get really boom straight line answers. They're going to give you. They're kind of like
It's a modern day I Ching.
right. It's a like I Ching.
Yeah.
It's not quite
Yeah.
as fortune cookie, but it
Yeah.
is, and it is your personal responsibility. All of the
Hmm.
phrases in there are written for you to
Yeah.
understand.
It's very, very fast. And I got one and I'm going to bust it out at Christmas vacation and see what I can do. And
Well,
I'll,
give me a call if
I
you're busting
will.
it out. I'll
I
let you
will.
know.
I will. So you answered a lot of the questions about what's been going on with your spiritual channel and coming to YouTube and so forth. Did you also get a lot of sustenance from the chat community? How would you like to talk about that?
Um, I do to some extent. I don't. Most of the shows I did up until this summer were pre-taped because I
Hmm.
have tech support to put
Right.
my shows up and stuff, so I didn't have to mess with any of that. I just got used to presenting and
Hmm.
getting ideas and bringing things forward. But I do. I get a lot of feedback. Of course, I've done in about 100 days. I did 90 grids, so I
I
talked to
know.
absolutely every person that was part of those grids, and a lot of them have kept up with me. I have a couple of people who've come back to me and they've wanted more in-depth spiritual counseling around
Good. Good.
creating that bubble,
Yep.
and it's like what I did with the 9 candles. You saw that.
Right. Saw that.
I've
Yep.
done 9 candles 3 times. The first time
Uh-huh.
I did it was last December, coming up to Christmas holidays when everybody's thinking about candles anyway. And
Mhm.
um, I just wanted it to validate for me that the channel would grow. Well, I went from about 300 subscribers, I call them members, but subscribers to 1,000 during the 9 candles. And then I kind of learned to work with them. And then I got the deluge of grids, and it was a
Mhm.
deluge. And I had to really realign my energies because I was used to dealing with people
Mhm.
directly, and now I had to deal with the people and the stones. And other people may not understand. Is there? I don't know if anybody's not seen a grid. I have one behind me. I'll show you.
Oh, yes, please show them. The other thing I want you to talk about is the eggs when you get a
I
chance.
will.
Okay.
This is healing. This is healing.
Ooh, look at the orange. Yeah.
And this is going in a nursing home sort of place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Well, and the other side is they have a memory care unit, and she
Uh-huh.
pulled a card for memory care.
Okay.
And this is what she got. It's kindness.
Oh. Is that a lot of selenite and turquoise? Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
Amazonite and
Amazonite. Okay.
rolled citrine. It's ice calcite.
Hmm.
I can tell you exactly. It's chrysocolla, snow quartz, citrine, ice calcite, chrysoprase, amazonite, ruby fusite, which is really an
Yes, it's
incredible
beautiful.
stone,
Yeah.
and blue kyanite, which is an incredible stone for connection. And this is tenderness, tenderness and
Oh,
kindness. And um,
I love that.
unfortunately, either they've been in lockdown because of COVID, or I was in lockdown because one of my kids got exposed to it. So I've been able to get it to them. But that's what
Okay.
grids look like. And what happens is I do a reading for you. Then I have some cards. We pull the
Hmm.
vibration from the universe that you're supposed to have. And then we work with that energy. And I build crystals. I've used crystals to create the grid to help you
Yes,
reflect that energy into your life.
they are beautiful. If you're not familiar with Nancy Jean's garden, please, I will put up the link to it. And she has such fascinating things happening. So, yeah.
Yeah, I try to do things to teach people their own spiritual
Hmm.
path, because what kept me going was what I could learn and do, not just with others but for myself. And
Hmm.
one of the things is that right now Danny and I are going to start a whole thing on dowsing with
Good.
a dowsing meter in a way, because we talk about how everybody's frequency is changing.
Hmm.
He's keeping a dowsing diary. I just got my stuff together today to start keeping a dowsing diary, so I can check my vibration through the day. Because today I
Yeah.
was on a YouTube, just a private Zoom call with some friends, and I got a spammer, and I was
Oh,
very polite. I let the call come through, and we can help make your day better. And I said, yeah, hang the F up. And then I immediately checked my vibration, and it had dropped 200.
yeah, I know. You just went boom.
And my friend said, well, you're going to put that in the diary? I said, yeah, damn right. I get down that level. But
It does show what anger can do to your vibration, doesn't it? Yeah,
oh,
or
and
irritation. Yeah.
just even watching the news, even if you think you've
Hmm.
suppressed the anger,
Hmm.
you haven't.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh boy, do I know that? That's
So
so
that's
true.
my other thing we're going to be, and that's the pendulum I use is one made out of tumbled stones that someone put together for me over 40 years ago. It's got every chakra color
Oh.
in it. And I didn't appreciate it. I mean, it was a pretty thing. I've carried, for me to have something that I found 40 years ago that I didn't give birth to, is like a miracle.
I've moved so many times. I don't think there's very much in my house that
I
has
know.
outlasted that. Yeah, I understand. My earrings still fit though from high school. Don't yours?
One of my ears healed up, and I never
Oh,
undid it.
okay. Well, it's been my aunt who was like my grandmother. She had those twisty ones.
Oh,
Oh,
God, those things are horrible.
those were horrible, right? Especially if you had fat lobes.
Yeah.
So tell us about your eggs. Most of us know that the person who was fashioning these eggs for you
Right.
had to stop because she got ill, but you found another person to
I
work.
found another person. I'm going to try and see if I have an egg here. Wait a minute.
Okay. I do too, Tracy. I love stones. I love it, love it, love it. Yeah.
I have, this is the last of the original set of eggs.
Okay.
That's an egg.
Ooh. Yeah.
And what it is I'm doing a series of eggs, and this is the heart chakra. And what I'm
Oh.
going to have around the heart chakra, the glare is pretty bad in this.
No, but I could see
The shape of the chakra.
etching,
Right.
etching.
It's a medallion, and the
A medallion.
a
Okay.
medallion. And in this case, there's a piece of rutilated quartz in the middle, which I would love to keep doing, but I've changed it to a blue lace agate, because rutilated quartz comes out of Brazil, and it's a supply chain thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I have a manufacturer in Wisconsin who is trying to recreate that. They tried with one kind of resin and it just didn't work. So now this week they're pouring another resin. But when I finish it, there will be a medallion for each of the chakras, and they will each be in their own eggs. So theoretically, you could get all of them. And then we're going to put the tree of life, earth, wind, fire, and water. So there'll be a dozen if you've got all the whole set. But it's like, what do you want to work with? Are you shamanistic? Do you want to work with those images?
Right.
Do you
Right.
want to work with the chakra images? And it's kind of depends on what you want. The egg came from creating it to help a friend of mine who has had multiple heart surgeries and he has crapped out lungs. And he wanted something that was smaller than a grid that he could kind of keep near him, that he could kind of, it's like a grid. You fire it up and it goes. And the only reason I kept going, the egg has proven to be such a pain in the butt. The only reason I kept going with the concept was 2 of the people I gave eggs to, well, they bought them from me, but got eggs when I had the first 10. I've only had 10 for real eggs. One of them, he calls me every once in a while and says, now you're still working on the eggs, because he's found it's an interdimensional portal for him. He's never worked with anything that was as strong in drawing his power. Of course, don't expect to get an egg and do interdimensional travel.
Right, and all of a sudden become
That's like, I'm not going to make you $45 million. And notice I don't get any of that. I don't work on a percentage because if I put my own will in that or my own acquisition in that, it would not happen.
Right.
So the bottom line on it is any day now. I mean, it literally is. And as soon as I see that we have that, then I have 10 people who bought them in May that I couldn't fulfill their orders. Those 10 people, and if one of them's watching, I know there's one lady who watches all of these. I'm getting them. And they've been very patient. Shit, I would have said, where's my money? But when I get the eggs, then I'm going to have a survey and say, which of the medallions would you want? Do you want heart? Do you want throat? Do you want third eye?
Yeah.
Yes, eggs are very common shape for people to put into spiritual forms. And smoky quartz would be gorgeous.
Yes. Aren't they also, it's to birth something? Is that, I mean, an egg would be something.
An egg is a point of creation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just love the whole idea of it, really. Does the grid need to be a closed circuit going clockwise and then counterclockwise, she said?
I don't think it matters.
Doesn't? It just depends on what you want. Your
spirit will feel itself drawn across the stones.
Yep. Absolutely. Hello, oil painter. I'm glad to see you. As you can see, I have my cards here.
Yes, her cards are cool.
Aren't they beautiful?
Yes.
And I heard she's going to start teaching tarot classes and how she reads her own cards. And see, everybody is just blossoming so much. It's so wonderful.
And they should. I mean, now, if you're going to do it now.
Do it now.
You need it now.
Absolutely. So is there anything else, Nancy, that you want to say about resilience during this time? I think you pretty much covered it, but I want to leave that up to you.
Well, I think that part of being resilient is also being resilient for yourself and taking the best care you can. And that's why earlier in the day, I ran my second, and I don't know how long it's going to run, but it's about my keto journey, how I lost 100 pounds. And then because you have to start with the spirit inside. You have to start with shifting your own energy before you can start dealing with the fit, because it's really a body hack. However you lose weight, it's a body hack.
It is.
And I'm trying to give people the best and the brightest of people who have the real diet plans. I'm not cooking meals or doing things. I'm just talking.
Right.
I'm doing what I do. I talk.
You're not Marie. You're not Marie Osmond, right?
No. Not. And all those things. I mean, if you go back to my first one, I went through all the diets I did. So when people start talking about yo-yo dieting, I can say, yes, that's true. And how it works or doesn't work and what we need to do. But
I really, a lot of it is this, isn't it?
Oh, it's all in your head.
It's all that.
It's all the speech you've talked to yourself about. It's the things,
correct.
Matter of fact, the first time I ever really lost weight, I was being hypnotized. And then it was really working great. And in the middle of one of the sessions when I was hypnotized, this face came right into my face but while I was hypnotized and said, "You don't belong here. You shouldn't lose weight." And
Oh my
I'm not
goodness.
going to go into which one of my family members it was who said that, but it took me 20 years to figure
I'm
out.
sure it did. It's
And
very painful.
after that, I had to go to private hypnotherapy, and then it was just too expensive. I said, "I'm not doing that." But hypnotherapy works in one way. Part of their jargon always says you don't see the desserts. You don't want a dessert, And I worked in a company, and I was there 4 years before I realized they had a dessert section in the
Oh, for
cafeteria.
heaven's sake. Wow.
So
When
I
I
mean,
was, yeah, I
hard.
had, the surgery done,
Uh-huh.
and I was still gravitating towards size 1X everywhere with
Hmm.
seeing myself that heavy.
Oh yeah,
And yeah.
you've got to look at yourself hard. I also warn people. I didn't measure like the inches
Hmm.
off.
Hmm. Yeah.
And guys, if you go look on my channel and look up the weight loss thing, that little picture they put up about what the show's about, that's me at 320 pounds.
Oh, I'll have to go see. Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, it looks like me, but it looks like someone took a bicycle pump. I mean, I cannot blow my head up to the
Uh-huh.
dimensions of that
And for
thing.
me, my picture at like 235, because I'm only 5'2.5", my stomach looks like I'm about 6 months pregnant.
Yeah,
That's where I should.
that I can tell you right now. That means you're an adrenal, uh,
Uh,
a carrier of weight, and that means cortisol, any kind of stress.
oh,
You just have to give yourself a break because as soon as the stress hits, the pounds come on. And the other thing
yeah.
is, there's medicines that will up your cortisol, and I have to occasionally, as I'm teaching myself now, I used to have a lot of lung problems, but I don't have them now. But a
Mhm.
couple weeks ago, I wasn't telling myself that, so I ended up having to use those huffers, those like Advair things.
Mhm.
They're full of steroids, and the second you put that in your mouth, you cannot lose weight for 7 days. Your
Makes
body
sense.
is changed. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah,
even
it
if
is.
yeah. So I try to warn people about those things about themselves. Those are things I didn't know, but I wish I had measured all the inches because the inches is incredible. I was a 3X, and that was a strain to get into, and I'm now
Well,
an XL. I'm
congratulations.
an XL or a large, depends on the
Mhm. Me
manufacturer.
too, but that's my
But see, I
mind's
still
on
buy
it.
tops that look like this. If I take it in, I'm really not.
Mhm.
On the
Yeah.
other thing is, I'd had a double D boob since my senior year of high school.
Oh,
So
well, that doesn't
I'm not
help.
going to do about that.
Oh, that's funny. Well, thank you so much, Nancy Jean. I always appreciate having you.
Well, I'm
Uh,
so glad you and Keith got what you wanted.
oh my God. And I'm going to tell him he can repurpose it so he can, the sky's the limit. But right now I'm just feeling so blessed. So
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah,
and enjoy it. But really, honest to God, just swipe it off a sage and say, okay, we're going on to project 2.
there you go. All
Anyway,
right.
I look forward to seeing you later.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. I'll be back
Bye.
at 3 o'clock. We will be coming back. Bye-bye.